Welcome to the Com Analytics channel. I'm Boris Tiesenghausen. May 3rd, today's top news as of this minute. The port of Primorsk in the Leningrad region of the Russian Federation was attacked by drones. They haven't even put out two ups in Perm yet, and now the port of Primorsk is ablaze. Following the night strike, numerous fire hotspots are being recorded in the port. NASA service shows at least 6 such hotspots. This port was already attacked on March 23rd, and now they've hit it again. And I'll show you a video now of how the Russian air defense worked there tonight. Notice how the missile at the height of the lower floors flies straight toward residential buildings. Take a look. That's probably how they'll shoot them down in Moscow too, blasting right into residential buildings. The governor of the Leningrad region stated that debris from an unmanned aerial vehicle fell in the port of Primorsk. Well, as always, a classic of the genre. The day before, the same governor stated that the Leningrad region is now a frontline region. So while Tuapse is burning out on the Black Sea, Primorsk is already flaring up on the Baltic. Strikes on the Black Sea and the Baltic, they create an effect of simultaneous pressure on all export routes of the Russian Federation. Well, I think there will only be more from here, but that's not all. In the same port of Primorsk today, our drones hit a small missile ship of Project 22-800 Karakurt. And let me remind you, this small missile ship is a carrier of calibers. And also, a patrol boat and a shadow fleet tanker were hit. Significant damage was caused to the infrastructure of the oil terminal port. I think they'll finish it off now. The drones will return and finish it. Meanwhile, additional air defense systems are already being brought to Moscow to cover the parade, or what's left of it, on Red Square on May 9th. Russian media are reporting this. So it turns out other regions will be left without air defense, since they're pulling these systems from there. Well then, we'll take note. Magyar, I think, will take note. Putin is urgently calling Trump again. By the way, Putin fears not only that something will fly right into his balding head during the parade. I think he's least worried about that. Like a hatch will open under him and he, a grotesque villain from old movies will fall into some dungeon and speed away in a trolley through an underground tunnel with that coughing chuckle of his. So Putin is afraid that they'll turn Moscow into a second Tuapse. I don't think he's afraid for himself specifically. I doubt that he personally will be present at the parade rather than his body double. He's afraid that Moscow will turn into a second Tuapse, that it will rain down over Moscow. On May 9th, a black oil rain. Can you imagine the scene? A parade without vehicles, it's decided. Russian occupiers are fearfully glancing at the sky, waiting for our drones and missiles. While over Moscow, a giant black funnel of smoke and fire rises. This is the image the underground commander fears. And there are plenty of targets. That is, around Moscow, there are several very serious oil depots and one important refinery. The Moscow refinery in Kapotnya has a capacity of 11 million tons, but we're more interested in the oil depots where they store hundreds and hundreds of thousands of tons of oil and products. For example, the Kapotnya oil depot. About 500,000 tons are stored there. That's 4 times more than in Tuapse. Can you imagine the volume? There's also the Volodarskaya oil depot, up to 400,000 tons of storage. The Podolsk oil depot. These are all around Moscow. 200,000 tons. The Mytishchi oil depot. 150,000 tons. Now, Mytishchi is comparable to Tuapse. All the others are large. Imagine that. And Khimki has about 200,000 tons. Another important point is that after the strikes on Russian ports and refineries, the pipeline system itself became clogged with oil. Because storage bases are burning, some refineries have stopped, so it's highly likely that all these oil depots are filled to the brim. That's why Tuapse is burning so brightly. It's packed to the brim. Wherever you hit, it's a full barrel, a full tank. And Putin is terrified that drones will hit one of these oil depots I've listed, or maybe all of them at once. Especially Kapotnya, where 500,000 tons are stored. Anyway, although the air show in Moscow was cancelled, maybe someone else will hold it, like Magyar. And that's not all. Systemic, comprehensive pressure on the entire Russian oil industry continues. Besides strikes on pumping stations, refineries, and depots, today sea drones attacked 2 more tankers of Russia's Shadow Fleet at the entrance to Novorossiysk Bay. That's 2 tankers at Novorossiysk and 1 near the port of Primorsk on the Baltic. 3 tankers in total. And I think that now, the daredevils who are still sending their tankers to Russian ports for Russian oil will probably think twice about it in the future. Insurers will 100% raise the insurance price, and crews will surely ask for a bonus, especially those entering Russian ports. Why it's important right now? Because indeed, the entire Russian Transneft pipeline system is completely clogged with extracted oil, meaning all available storage facilities are full, so if the number of tankers also decreases, there will simply be nowhere to store the oil. It's already a problem right now. Well, let me remind you, Novorossiysk is Russia's key oil hub on the Black Sea. Russia will simply choke on its own oil and will have to reduce production, will have to mothball the wells, and in Russia, this is for a long time, if not forever. But that's not all yet. Data has emerged on the consequences of the strike on the Perm linear dispatch station, which is still smoking up the sky, where our drones arrived the other day. There it turns out 5 large tanks out of 9 were destroyed and 1 was damaged. Well, that is 6 out of 9. Also, part of the equipment was put out of action. That is, 2/3 of the tank farm of this linear station, a most important station, was destroyed. And this is all literally in just a few days. By the way, friends, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You can do it right now. This is important for the promotion of the channel. We are fighting Putin's propaganda. Let's do it together, so subscribe. And another important point. Many have noticed that after subscribing to this channel, your hair becomes soft and silky. And I saw today a fragment of an interview with Madhyar, with the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces. I think he gave this interview to the BBC. So I'll quote literally a couple of sentences that are really important. My units spend about $40 million a month on drones and cause Russia damage of about $4 billion, says Madhyar. The ratio is about 1 to 100. It's very, very, well, that is, it's just the coolest indicator. The cost of destroying 1 Russian infantryman, based on the last 10 months, is $882. This is a very favorable exchange rate of money for the enemy's manpower, says Madhyar. That is, just think about how much Putin absolutely does not value the lives of Russians. I think you already knew that, but here Madhyar evaluated it in specific figures. The life of a Russian infantryman costs $882, or rather his destruction. And the main question is, for what? What is all this for? For the sake of preserving Putin's own power? Because he's afraid to get out of this war. That's how it is. We analyze entire large volumes of video from different Russian cities where drones arrive. And today I came across a video where our drones are flying by. Locals there are saying something like, oh, look, drones are flying there. And some grandfather in the background says, yeah, this Putin, well, and he's cursing him out. So his final words were, he should be hanged. And someone yells at him, what's Putin got to do with it? The old man says, everything. Why did he start bombing Ukraine? And so on. So you see, slowly but surely, through the drones, through the black rains, through the sirens, it's starting to sink in. Well, maybe it sank in for this old man even earlier. Ukraine continues to destroy the occupiers and has stopped the Russian spring offensive. That's a fact. In every episode, we have an important fundraiser for the defense forces of Ukraine. Today, we continue the fundraiser for the Freedom of Russia Legion, which is fighting for Ukraine, a fundraiser for the repair of damaged equipment for the purchase of drones. The Legion's fighters are now fighting in almost all the hotspots. And another very important point, the Legion's fighters are not only fighting on the front lines, but also conducting operations deep behind enemy lines. The Legion commander, the legendary Caesar, has recorded a video message for you. Please have a listen.
Дорогой Борис Тизенгаузен, уважаемые подписчики его канала, от имени бойцов Легиона Свобода России я хочу поблагодарить вас за всю ту помощь, которую вы нам не раз оказывали. Сейчас я снова обращаюсь к вам за помощью. Нам нужны средства на ремонт наших автомобилей, нам нужны средства на закупку БПЛА. Мы будем вам очень благодарны и в этот раз. Вместе с вами мы обязательно победим. Слава Украине! Свобода России!
Let's help the Legionnaires. Fundraiser link is in the description of this video. There's Mono and PayPal for those who want to help from abroad. And if you happen to be watching on other channels, there's always a QR code in the corner. You can use it to donate too. And in every episode, I give you a special thanks from myself and from the hundreds of warriors you've already helped. Together, we are an incredible force. Remember that. Thank you so much. And the timeless classics. In Russia, they can do a few things forever. Develop a Russian smartphone, talk about how great they are, and explain how bad and terrible everything is in the West. It's notable that Russian officials who talk about the decaying West usually have, in that same decaying West, real estate properties. So, State Duma Chairman Vyacheslav Volodin stated that since late October last year, the number of European citizens wishing to move to Russia has significantly increased. We believe it. We believe it, of course. He claimed that thousands of such applications, thousands are coming in. Let me quote Volodin. They are fleeing from imposed non-liberal agendas, Volodin stated. According to him, the largest outflow of citizens to Russia among European countries is recorded from Germany, where, get this, every fifth resident is in a suitcase mood. Well, let's start with the fact that Putin is the one constantly in a suitcase mood right now, especially before the parade. I think there aren't even any suitcases left in Moscow by now. A special order from the Kremlin came in. Well, can you imagine? Every fifth resident of Germany just dreams of moving to the Russian Federation. I know for a fact that I have subscribers from Germany, I know. Write to me. How are you? How are you doing there anyway? Do you dream of rushing off to the Russian Federation? To see Voronezh, Sizran, or not really? Write in the comments. And be sure to write from other countries too. Volodin is talking about all of Europe after all. How is it there? Probably leaving for Russia in waves, right? And another interesting piece of news, in Russia, they're preparing to freeze the deposits of Russians. Well, that's just to make life more pleasant. So you've arrived in Russia and boom, your deposit is immediately frozen so you don't go anywhere else. Just stay in the Russian Federation. This is not a joke, by the way. There's been a lot of talk about this in recent days. And the financial director of Sberbank of Russia, Taras Skvortsov, actually stated the following in plain text, that they are very concerned there at Sberbank about the outflow of deposits from the bank. And he passed this information to the central bank and the government, and if the outflow continues, they will take measures. And what measures do you think the state might apply if the outflow of deposits continues among Russians? If Russians continue to withdraw money from the bank, they will simply be forbidden from doing so. And how can this be done? Exactly by freezing the bank deposits of Russians, or by coming up with a list of reasons why Russians can't withdraw their savings. Against this backdrop, the rate of cash withdrawals from banks is as follows. For April alone, Russians withdrew 577 billion rubles, and since the start of the year, the outflow has reached 620 billion rubles. This means that over the last month, this process has significantly accelerated. I think that this month records will also be broken, and those who are older probably remember how millions of Soviet citizens were robbed in this way through hyperinflation. When all the savings that people had spent their whole lives collecting simply became worthless, in just a few days, it was all over and people were left without their savings. And also it might be useful for Russians to know that the state has already dipped its hands into their deposits and that banks are using their money to fund military-industrial complex projects. This will become obvious when even more Russians start withdrawing their deposits. You'll see, soon they'll definitely be told, well, there's a slight issue, we can't give you your deposits. Believe me on this. The countdown begins. And let's return to our negotiations regarding Ukraine. Trump's special representative Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are not going to Ukraine, as I mentioned, but in yesterday's episode they see no reason to. Ukraine doesn't want to fulfill Putin's demands, it doesn't want to give him Donbass without a fight. Meanwhile, Putin is trying to convince Trump that Russia is advancing on all fronts, that any moment now, very soon, will take Donbass and so on. It's been 5 years and he still hasn't occupied Donbass, yet suddenly, somehow, he's supposed to succeed now. So in short, they're not coming here, and Ukraine has no intention of meeting Putin's demands. But here's an interesting point. Ukraine is developing a negotiation strategy without US involvement, hoping for Turkey's mediation. So apparently there's a reason for this, because we know very well that Erdogan, unlike some others, has shown Putin at least once who's the boss, by shooting down his Russian military aircraft along with its crew. So perhaps this will be a more effective approach. We'll see. We're watching. Iran has submitted a 14-point proposal to the US to end the conflict via Pakistan. Naturally, the Iranian agency Tasnim is reporting this, and the plan is focused on the topic of ending the war, which differs from the American position, meaning the US is proposing a 2-month truce. Tehran insists on resolving key issues immediately within 30 days, within 1 month, and that's it. We sign the documents. And so what does Iran want? Non-aggression guarantees, the withdrawal of American forces from the region around Iran, lifting the naval blockade, unfreezing Iranian assets, payment of compensation, and the lifting of sanctions. Nothing more, nothing less. It specifically mentions the end of hostilities in all directions, including Lebanon, and the creation of a new regulatory mechanism in the Strait of Hormuz. What does this mean? Iran will charge a fee for passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Clearly, Trump doesn't like this. Trump already said, I'm not okay with this. And he actually asked, by the way, do we even need this deal? Well, good question, right? And according to media reports, The Guardian, for example, writes that the war could soon resume. That might be the case because all this time, while this shaky truce lasted, the transfer of American forces to the Middle East never stopped. We're watching that too. And look at this, a pure Russian classic. Back to two apps, but here, it's about all of Russia as a whole, using two apps as an example. In two apps, they decided not to cancel the tourist season, despite oil rain and fuel oil in the sea. The city's mayor declared the tourist season will happen, of course. Well, of course it will. According to him, the length of the two apps coastline is 90 kilometers. And this is important, this is very important, and what happened on one beach won't affect the others at all. Seriously? He actually said that seriously. In his opinion, the water from one beach simply doesn't come into contact with the water from another neighboring beach at all. What is this? Well, anyway, residents of Tuapse, your city's leadership said everything is fine there. So why are you all lying, posting footage of fires? Everything is fine with you. Putin recently said that everything is within the normal range. Today in Tuapse, Rospotrebnadzor said all samples are normal, the water, everything's great. So go swimming, residents of Tuapse, what are you complaining about? Now this phrase, they're just swimming in that oil. This phrase has taken on a whole new meaning. I'd even say it's shining with all the colors of the rainbow now. But seriously, even the most die-hard fan of the Russian world must have noticed that the situation for Russians is only getting worse, and every single day. And while Russian occupiers unsuccessfully fight for Mala Tokmachka, 10 more Tuapses, 15 Gelendziks, and 20 Anapas will burn. Yes, that's a fact. And another thing. Volodymyr Zelensky stated that yesterday there was some rather specific activity on sections of the Ukraine-Belarus border from the Belarusian side. We're carefully recording everything, controlling everything, and if necessary, we will react, Zelensky declared. I'm starting to realize that someone just hasn't calmed down over there in Belarus. Someone wants to get hit right in the potato, I guess, right? Lukashenko is just asking for it. First, he set up repeaters on his territory for Russian Shaheds. Then some helicopters are flying from his side of the border. Pray, you starchy little soul, that Ukraine doesn't take this seriously. Otherwise, no Oreshnik missile will save this tuba. They'll turn him into chips before he can even blink. Well, and here in Russia, they decided to speak out against Latvia and Estonia too. It turns out, look, a deputy of the State Duma, Konstantin Zatulin, stated the following. Latvia and Estonia deceived the Russian part of the population by promising fair living conditions after leaving the USSR. As is tradition, I send a big hello to Latvia and Estonia. Wonderful countries, wonderful people. Been there many times. And in general, it's my small homeland, so to speak. Thank you so much for your support and help. To Ukraine, well, Zatulin unfairly failed to mention Lithuania, so I send a big hello to Lithuania too. I'd like to say this. If any fans of the Russian world are unhappy living in a foreign country, there's a huge, giant Russia, 17 million square kilometers. There's everything for you there. Spiritual bonds, Putin, Patriarch Kirill, Lenin's mausoleum, Roskomnadzor, and even a deputy of the State Duma Zatulin. Why suffer and live in a hated foreign country with alien values? You should love your homeland at home. Well, Zatulin should have started with his own country and answered the question of why they still haven't created decent living conditions for Russians in Russia. They deceived the Russians. They got duped, it seems, again and again. Well, you take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And I'm asking you, please, let's help the Legionnaires. The link to the fundraiser is in the description of this video. Our help is very much needed by them right now. Have a peaceful day, everyone, and glory to Ukraine.